Now that all of Sir Topham Hatt's engines are back on the daily grind, it's now time for Thomas to take over the spotlight. Feeling unimportant, he complains about his level of work.
I spend my time pulling coaches about ready for you to take out on journeys.
That's funny. I don't remember you griping way back in the pilot episode. Where did this motivation come from? And because at this point Henry, Gordon, and Edward are pretty much even with each other, Thomas is the odd man out, meaning nobody gives a flying buffer what he has to say. See how your treatment of others comes back to bite you, Thomas? But Thomas thought otherwise.
Why can't I pull passenger trains too?
Sometime later, Thomas and Henry were by themselves at Tidmouth's sheds. Henry wasn't feeling good, of which would begin to plague him for several more episodes to come. This only proves that on top of any accidents to come in the future, Henry might in fact be the most costly engine to maintain. When daybreak came, the situation remained the same, and Henry was due to pull the first train. It was as bright as day what Thomas was thinking.
If Henry is ill, he thought, perhaps I shall pull his train.
Getting himself emotionally ready, Thomas started putting things into place. A little too excited for his own good, Thomas began to get restless. I could see why he would too. It's not like he wished for Henry to become sick, but he did publicly ask for a chance to take his own train. And his chance keeps getting closer and closer. I'd be anxious too if I were in his shoes. Wheels. You get the analogy.
Thomas took them to the platform and wanted to run round in front at once. But his driver wouldn't let him. Don't be impatient, Thomas. Thomas waited and waited.
After going through everything, the conductors finally ran out of things to do, and Henry still didn't show up. Then Sir Topham Hatt appears to see what all the hubbub is about.
Find another engine, he ordered. There's only Thomas, they said. You'll have to do it then, Thomas. Be quick now.
To his joy, Thomas races to the front, now knowing he's the one to pull his very first train. However, what Thomas wasn't taking into account was that he didn't know anything about pulling passenger trains. This was, after all, jumping straight into the deep end with no prior training. But Thomas wasn't listening to his driver. And as anyone knows, not listening can lead to trouble, which is exactly what happened next.
Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train. Or perhaps the driver pulled the lever by mistake. Anyhow, Thomas started.
So Thomas runs off without his coaches having no clue they weren't even following him. What I don't get is how his driver or fireman didn't notice. Surely they'd spot the problem a lot quicker since, well, they can turn their heads and look? But that's not the case here, is it?
Henry says it's hard to pull trains, but I think it's easy. Hurry, 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 he puffed.
Gee, I can't imagine why. Further up the line, Thomas rolls up to a red signal, ordering him to stop. Frustrated at having to stop his wonderful train run, the signalman came over. Asking what he's doing there, Thomas responds with what he so proudly thinks he's doing.
Where are your coaches, then? Thomas looked back. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left them behind.
Face of the day, people. About the same level as Gordon's shocked face. Now feeling embarrassed for the second time in a row, since Gordon humiliated him, Thomas reverses back to the station. By the way, hear that main theme being played for Thomas? The classic of all classics right there. Can't top it. As Thomas made his way back, the crowd of railway passengers were none too pleased. That is until they saw Thomas's face and completely forgave him for the incident. At last, Thomas was secured to the coaches and chuffed off. Although that ended well for him, the tale of Forgetful Thomas never left.
Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a train, but forgot about the coaches.
Guess Thomas is going to have to change that image, huh? After a few episodes, we see that the focus has turned back to Thomas. Seeing that he still is fairly ungrateful for the opportunities he's given, Henry's absence was probably the best way for Thomas to learn on the fly and appreciate his work, considering he didn't even get scolded for screwing up. This was a nice little taste for Thomas, seeing that he would later have his own branch line, as we all know. This is also a good lesson about taking your time and learning to do things the right way, no matter how antsy the setting may be. As seen at the end, Thomas learned the hard way for not paying attention, and it only takes one mistake to be branded for life. As long as one learns from it, though, that's all that matters. Next episode is Thomas and the Trucks. Thanks for watching.